All right. Today, live review Elijah Craig Barrel Proof batch B523 from the Heaven Hill Distillery. Um, and this is Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, of course. 62.1% ABV or 124.2 proof. It is non-chill filtered. And it's got a mash bill of 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley. And this particular bottling is 11 years, 5 months, and a new charred oak number 3 char barrel. So it's a spicy meatball. And of course we're gonna rate this out of 100, 25 for aroma, 25 for palate, 25 for finish, 10 for texture, and 15 for my personal experience. Oh, that smells so rich. So we've actually gotten through a lot of our barrel proof bourbons now that we haven't really bought too many new ones, except for that JD over there. So we'll see how this stacks up against a bunch of the other ones we've already rated. I'm sure this is a favorite, but that doesn't mean it's a shoe-in. So of course we're talking about Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This is a barrel proof. This is your color, your deep color there for barrel proof. Again, 11 years, 5 months now. This is only a number 3 char barrel, so it's not as charred as the alligator char frequently used. We're going to give that some time to rest. I'm smelling melted butter, volatile aroma right now. That kind of buttery corn kind of note. Oh, it's so strong. And of course, Heaven Hill is the second largest holder of aging bourbon whiskey in the United States. It is a giant distillery. And when we talk about Elijah Craig, who is this? Who is this Elijah Craig person? It is the person that they claim was the first person to start aging corn liquor in charred barrels. They claim, but a lot of people make claims about the early days of whiskey and who invented what and who came up with what. But that's what they say is Elijah Craig had the idea to put that corn liquor, that corn moonshine in a barrel, see what happens, you know. But I always imagine it's one of those things where it's like, well, they had to put it somewhere, so they put it in a barrel, then they found it did something interesting. So we're just giving this a little bit of time again. This is not a particularly empty bottle, and it is at barrel proof, so kind of just we're having a little bit of a chat. We got cats here. We'll allow this spirit to interact with the ear a little bit before I decide I want to burn myself with it. Because, you know, the human species that we are, we're just mutants. And we like to drink poison for fun. Just for fun. What are you doing, darling? My goodness. Being very good, unlike Mosley. Up here and fuck my shit up. Alright. Oh, there's actually like a pretty nice cherry note hitting right off. that like melted butter kind of corn characters in there. There's like a good layer of spiciness, but there's also like something I would describe as like a cocoa powder or like an unsweetened chocolate like on the aroma right off, which is not super common. Oh, there's some old antique furniture. Like old wooden chair with, you know, with leather upholstery or something. Something hit me slightly like varnish. But yeah, like, honestly, the note I'm selling on the most is like antique furniture. Antique furniture store. Oh, man, that's actually kind of nice. But sometimes you get in there and you get like a bit of like a cocoa powder. There's also some like kind of like typical spiciness in there too. And like all sorts black licorice. Very easy to nose this for 62% alcohol. It's not spiky. What I'm not getting on the outset is like deep brown sugar note. I'm not getting like syrupy note or like molasses or like very rich sweet characters. Those are not immediately present. Oh, it's really nice though. There's like, again, it's kind of got that thing going on where you get in there and there's like a jumble of different notes and they kind of like spring out in a different way every time. Like sometimes you get that cherry in the cocoa, and sometimes you get that like buttery note at antique furniture store. And then sometimes the spice hits up just right that it's like black licorice all sorts. And there's some amount of like, again, like varnished wood kind of thing going on, like a coat of varnish. Some more kind of like bready corn note now. Yeah. I feel like I could talk about this nose for a while. So we won't. We'll just... That's why I tend to say that is like, you know, we could sit here forever. I could nose this for quite a bit. Then it's nosing quite well. Really nice, actually. The depth of complexity is there. Lots of different elements. The only thing that's like gaping hole missing for me right now is like that brown sugar molasses syrup kind of thing that's typical. But we might get that kind of afterwards as a development, which is not terribly uncommon. Oh, it's so good. Okay, I can't... We can't get lost in the nose, okay? We can't get lost in its mystifying aromas. We have to burn our insides with high strength alcohol. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B523 on the palate. Cheers. Oh, that's rich though. Some great flavor. Immediately on the attack, there's some of that cherry note. You get something like butteriness, some of that corn, buttery kind of character in there. A little bit of sweetness, and then in the mid palate, kind of more on that spice, more on that like baking spice, more on that like star anise, licorice, black licorice kind of note. Into the back palate, some more like spicy and oaky kind of characters. Very drying initially on the mouth. In the finish, there's some kind of like deeper kind of oak notes and some other stuff that I didn't quite manage to wrap my head around. Again, first strip, I cast strength first sip of cast strength alcohol sometimes burns quite a bit. So we kind of just try to let that take hold for a minute and subside so that we can have a more easy experience next sip. This is already fantastic, though. Fantastic bourbon for sure. Like, it's already impresses me more than whatever the last barrel proof bourbon I drank was. I don't know. What was it? Was it Bullet? What did I drink last? What did I review last? Out of curiosity. Let's go to my VODs. What's the last cask strength bourbon I talked about? I talked about Weller Special Reserve. That was the last bourbon I think I talked about. Which this is going to blow that out of the water, I think. I'm just curious if my last cask strength bourbon was yeah, Bullet. It was the last cast strength last cast strength bourbon I rated was Bullet. And this one like slams it. Like it slams it. Like without even me thinking too much about it. It slams it. So it's like not. It feels like it's not even close. I'm not going to look at the numbers I put up last time, but I can't imagine this is going to score less. Oh, huh. It's a little softer on the spice now. It's kind of like more of that cherry, more of that like cornbread. Some of that like sweet character is kicking up at the bottom. More like sweet licorice. Starting to get into that like brown sugar realm. I don't want to call it caramel. Caramel is hard for me on bourbon. Like if it's not a wheater, usually caramel's hard for me. Like brown sugar is fair. Like syrup is too. Sometimes it's more molasses. Depends if it's really darker. But yeah. Kind of almost as expected. The sweetness is kicking up the bottom. The cherry's still in there though. That with that cornbread kind of note. And you still have that kind of like rye spice, star anise, kind of all sorts black licorice, but kind of like becoming more sweet as it develops. It's less like antique furniture store varnish now. That's kind of subsided a little bit. Oh, this is lovely. On the back end, initially some baking spice, into some of that sweet licorice note. Then comes the oak, but it's very dark. Like, I don't hate chocolate on the back of the finish here. Oaky and chocolatey. I don't hate barrel char. Something very dark on the back end. I don't hate charcoal either. Finish is like probably like long minus. I would say it's not quite super duper, but long minus. This is tremendous. I wish I could have got a bottle of the after like kind of really considering this one and have it be open for like 3-4 months with get a little bit of air. I would have liked to maybe gotten a bottle of the C923. If that one was really actually extra good, because this seems pretty phenomenal. Even on its own. So if the C923 was even better, that seems like wild to me. Again, it's not doing anything like wild and interesting in terms of the bourbon realm. It's all home plate bourbon notes and characteristics, but it's expressing a lot of different qualities, a lot of different depths, and it's kind of like as you kind of sit with it, it progresses and develops more into that sweet note. It's like, oh, it's like so much sweeter now, so much more like in the syrup. And I kind of like that, you know. I like when you can kind of like pour something, rest it for a minute, and then kind of get an initial nosing and tasting impression. And then as you kind of sit with it and kind of, you know, contemplate and be mindful of it, it kind of like changes in front of you and gives you like more experience. Like at first it was kind of like all that, like we were saying, all that like antique shop, slight varnish, very spicy. And then like now it's kind of slid more into like those sweet, comfortable, kind of bready corn, syrup, kind of notes now. It's kind of like become very comfortable. And noses quite well for this proof. Again, that we had that Highland Park cask strength not that long ago, and that one, again, despite it being, you know, older than this, it felt a little sharp to nose at times, where this feels very, very tame for 62%. I mean, that, I always think back to Aberlour Abernah having like even only 60% alcohol and being quite sharp on the nose sometimes. But it seems like well presented. It is a little bit drawing on the mouth, but it's pretty tolerable. I like the deep, darker notes on this finish, though. The darker barrel, that darker, like slightly molasses, almost like Almost reminds me a little bit of Ardbeg Tar. It's like a really dark, sludgy note that's kind of sweet, if that makes any sense. The back of this is very, very deep for me. But kind of as the sweetness has developed, it's almost like that kind of like sweet tar, like melted black licorice, slightly bitter thing, which I I think is quite interesting for a bourbon note, I suppose. All right, so let's talk about the aroma out of 25. Again, fabulous intensity, no obstruction of ethanol really. Lots of different notes, slightly emergent, develops after time. I mean, what bad things can you say about this for a bourbon? Not a lot. Oh, it's nice. Yeah, it's like full on sweet corn cake. Slight baking spice. Get some vanilla in there now. Vanilla's kicking up. Um, 23. My nose is phenomenal. All right. Let's talk about the palate. At 25. Very rich. Again, at this point, mostly concentrate on that sweetness, a little bit of spicy character, some oakiness in the back of the palate. That kind of fruity thing I kind of got at first is kind of mostly gone. It's pretty good. Strong intensity. Not too much like mixed complexities going on here. It's fairly stable. It would be the detractor, I suppose. Give the palate 19. Great intensity. It just is not like giving me a whole lot of different things. It's just I wish it had a little bit more variety on the palate. It's kind of like there's a couple things there, kind of samey, that kind of like spiciness, that kind of like oakiness in the back, and then that kind of like sweetness up front. It had a little bit of a cherry at it at first, and then that's kind of gone. If I could get a couple more things out of it, that'd be brilliant. All right, so let's focus on the finish, which has been quite great as well. So there was some spice. And that black licorice note. Deeper, oakier, bitter, charcoal. that dark, unsweetened chocolate getting in there. Heavily charred barrel, like really black barrel char. Really bitter. Not quite hitting that like sweet tar note that I kind of felt like I got a little bit of, but not quite hitting that. Pretty good. Again, I'll give it 19. And the aroma is where it's at on this one. All right, out of 10 for texture. Yeah, it's pretty solid. Woo! Not watery or anything, obviously. It is quite drying on the mouth, but pretty good stuff. Give it a 7. All right. So at a 15, let's talk about my personal subjective opinion of this Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B523 Second Street Bourbon Whiskey. Against other cask strength bourbons that I've had, this one slaps, okay? It really slaps. It has a kick up in spiciness, but those spicy notes really, like, despite it only being like 10% rye, you're really getting that Styranus licorice, black licorice note. It's definitely present. That malted barley, I think, is like helping to provide like a breadiness. You get that corn, you get that cherry, you get that vanilla. You get some emergent, interesting, weird notes like again, like antique wood, leather upholstery, these kinds of ideas. The nose is phenomenal. Has a great initial complexity. Has a transition into more sweet and more comfortable aromas. So good. One thing I'll say about the palate is it's kind of like, well, it's got some sweetness, maybe a little bit of cherry, a little bit spicy, and get some oak in there. Nothing wowing me. Sometimes you get some spice in the palate. Like initially I was getting some of that spice in the palate, some of that black licorice, and that was really nice. But that kind of like faded after a couple sips. I was getting less of that and getting more of that kind of just generic sweet note, I suppose. If that like consistently was like a little bit more interesting, probably could have gave it some more points there. Finishes look pretty nice too. You get a good transition from like a sweet, spicy kind of thing. Get some again, some of that rye licorice spice in there. And then you get into like a darker, oakier barrel char, charcoal kind of finish. Pretty long, pretty good. Texture is excellent. Man, thing slaps. It's always hard for me to give something a really outstanding experience score when it's not doing anything too wild and interesting. Because at the end of the day, this is a phenomenal whiskey, but it's still a bourbon. It's just, I came in here expecting bourbon notes, and I got like more than I was asking for. But I still got bourbon notes. So it's like always hard to be like, hey, is this the mind-blowing experience it could be? And I think it's not, but it's really damn good. Like if you're looking for bourbon and those bourbon flavors down the home plate, phenomenal choice, but it's still not gonna be like, oh, I can't believe this. It's not like, I can't believe how interesting this is. It doesn't meet me there. It meets me at 12 out of 15. Stands out to the best that it could, but it's not truly wild. And if we put these together, 23 and 19 and 19 and 7 and 12. We give this an 80. 80 out of 100. This is great. This is a great whiskey. And the sad truth is, if I gave it an 81, it would be excellent. Wait, actually, by excellent, wait, I gotta hold on. Is 80 great or is 80 excellent? I gotta decide this right now. My little rubric says great is 65 to 80 and excellent is 80 to 96. I fucked up somewhere. No, 80 is great. Yeah, 80 is great. It's supposed to be 81. 81 to 96 is excellent. Okay. It's so close. It was so close to being an excellent whiskey. But it is a great whiskey. Totally. So good. And really, on another day, I feel like I could have given this a couple of points too. It's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good.